today as we discuss the youth, the digital spaces, and the quest for democracy in Uganda. And we really are going to look at the shrinking space and how the young people are leveraging the digital spaces to advance discussions on accountability, on human rights, on governance, largely on democracy issues. Before social media, for example, used to just be about showing off. Rather, this time around, we have seen young people across the continent coming together, debating and discussing critical issues. And these debates do not only stay online. We have seen in some countries position papers got from discussions online and presented to parliament. We have seen such online spaces culminating into lawful protests and demonstrations against corruption and against abuse of office. We have seen young people as well doing digital explainers, explaining issues and using the digital spaces as advocacy tools. We have also seen that these efforts actually go beyond just young people. The movement then grows into people in the academia, it goes into people in business, and people start to demand for accountability. And so today, as we really celebrate the International Youth Day, it's very important for us to focus on how young people are evolving from just being listening posts in the conversations on democracy and governance to actually say we also deserve to be on the table and discuss these issues because they affect us. Of course, this is on the backdrop of a shrinking civic space. We know, for example, that there are few programs that have on TV and on mainstream media, television and radio, where young people's voices are heard. Look at all the premium political shows, for example, in Uganda, and you look at the main people who are hosting them and the panelists that they are hosting as well, where the voices of the young people been. And I think that when they deny you a seat at the dinner table, you actually make yours. And we have seen young people making that seat and discussing that. So that is sort of the preamble to the discussion. And I want to welcome you once again to this Twitter space. I'm Solomon Serwanja, and from wherever you're listening in, it's good to have you. Firstly, I wanted to introduce my panelists this evening. We're really privileged this evening to be speaking to Precious Pliam, who is the human rights activist, and she has also been leading on the front line of digital conversations online. Thank you very much, Precious, for being part of the space, the good girl. Thank you very much. We also have on the show today Anthony Natif, who is a team leader at Public Square, which is also an initiative that brings people, irrespective of their political background, irrespective of their religious background, to discuss national issues. Anthony Natif, thank you for joining. We also have Bernard Oloport, who is a storyteller and activist. Of course, we all know him with his Twitter handle Be Wall. Thank you very much for making time. We'll also be joined shortly with Godwin Toko, who is a lawyer and activist, also a team member at Agora. We'll also be speaking with Mutegeki Cliff, who is a digital adoption consultant who has been studying how young people are taking advantage of the digital spaces to advance democracy. So later on, I will be opening up the floor to all of us to debate and have these meaningful conversations. But when I was coming for this space, I was thinking, okay, so how do we even innovate better that these conversations grow further and that they are taken very seriously? Okay, let me first of all start with the good girl. Precious, thanks for joining us. How have young people taken advantage of the digital platforms to have their voices heard? You're welcome, Precious.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It is a privilege. I'm humbled to be part of the space tonight. Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, on the space today. Going to the question, how are the young people been able to use social media? Being a Ugandan and, being in a country that limits and censors traditional or mainstream media, the young people have been able to, find a way of bypassing the barriers of mainstream media and so getting into social media. Of course, social media has been an escape route for most of us. Like I said, mainstream media is censored and is limited to a certain category of people. Therefore, social media has been our escape route. And so, the young Ugandans have been able to use social medias like X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram to raise awareness on matters of national and international importance. They've been able to mobilize themselves, talk about things that matter to them, things that, affect them on the daily. Before it was only like the national issues would expect maybe the MPs, the leaders, the educated, the elites talk about all this. But with social media, the young people have gotten a chance to raise their voices on issues that actually matter to them and influence and advocate for change. For example, maybe the good and recent example is the activism that came about the march to parliament. These are some of the things that the young people came up and said, you know what, we are being affected by corruption. And of course, they took it to the spaces, X spaces, and they talked about this conversation for months. And of course, they're like, no, we need to do something. And, they hit the streets peacefully and protested. So I think social media has helped us to also produce and activate more activists and activism itself. Everyone is now concerned. Everyone wants to speak. So I think social media, the youth in Uganda and have been creative as well, because the graphic designers putting in their art. The bloggers, we have people who are doing skits, and one of the panelists being a storyteller. I'm sure he will tell us about that part. It has helped so many young Ugandans and the youth to be creative. Being unemployed and all that, social media has given us a chance, has allowed people to explore more of their talents and put it out there for people, to see it. We have seen musicians that have been created on social media. We promote them, and all this. So yeah, I think I'll stop there for now, and maybe I'll come back again, Solomon. Thank you.
Right, thanks. Thank you very much. Precious, we saw you as well leading these conversations. You took the ball in, you guys got it up and started discussion, let me bring in Anthony here. Natif, you have been one of the people who has really pushed people to the limit on social media, and you have led conversations online. As a young person, social media has become a tool for holding the powerful to account. Tell us how you have been doing it. Natif, you're welcome.
Hi, Solomon. Hi, listeners. You hear me? I know that's a question everyone asks.
Yes, loud and clear.
First, I need to correct the record. I'm not terribly young. I just look young. But yes, I appreciate that compliment. I did listen intently to the good girl, and she gave a good summary of what we think social media is, and I hope we can also spend some time talking about what it can be and the wins that we think we have gotten and what we can get going forward. But I'm a numbers person. I like using numbers a lot. So I'll start you off with a very sobering statistic. In January 2024, you had at least 33.4 million Ugandans having a mobile phone. That's around 67% of the Ugandan population. But of these, and that was a 7% jump from January 2023, which shows that mobile phone adoption is on the rise. But then if we are going to peg social media as the tool that the public is going to use to drive change in society, then it behooves us to also look at the number of Ugandans who use social media. And when we come to that, I'll tell you that in January 2023, and this is the last time I've seen these figures, I've scoured the internet quite a bit to find the recent ones, but I've not got them. January 2023, the total number of social media users in Uganda was 2.1 million, which is just 4.3% of the population. So sometimes when we're talking about using social media as a tool to drive change, I feel like we tend to limit ourselves to an elite class, and we lock ourselves into some sort of echo chamber. Now, having said that, I have to go back and say, yes, social media is a fantastic tool that we can use to independently really reclaim narratives and frame issues that traditionally have fallen through the cracks whenever we've used, as you referred to earlier, traditional media. Previously, you had a situation where, the only messages that got to the masses were the messages that were cleared by editors, say, of the New Vision, of the Monitor, of UBC, and these major media houses. But today, anyone with a smartphone can be a journalist. And you've seen, Solomon, yourself, that independent social media users can put out content that surpasses the distribution per week of all the media houses combined, at least the print media houses. So that's a fantastic tool, and that's a fantastic advantage that social media brings to this discussion of social and political advancement. But like I said earlier, we risk getting high on our own supply and believing that, because we're seeing so much change being driven by social media campaigns, that somehow we are communicating to the entirety of Uganda. And I hope that during the discussion, we'll find a way to translate the social media noise that we see to the person, say, deep in my village in Bunangabo, to the person in Chanamukaka, who does not know what X is, who does not use Facebook, and stuff like that. Thank you. That's a very long-winded introduction, but I hope it helps us frame the question better. But maybe before I go off, I'll give you another very interesting piece of data that you might know, Solomon, because your organization is a leader in this space in using social media to drive narratives. You will know that by 2025, at least, I think it was 4.5 billion people will be using social media. So we shall be communicating with a massive audience. And of these, the average time that someone spends on social media every day is 2.5 hours. That's a lot of time to have a captive audience. And if we work very well with these social media tools, I believe that we can drive social transformation through using them as communication channels. Back to you, Solomon.
Thanks, Anthony. Someone was asking me what is the source of Anthony's data here. Because they were saying that you mentioned about 2.2 million Ugandans on social media.
Yes.
What is the source?
Yeah, let me give you the source of the data.
I also know that the Uganda Communications Commission. Yeah.
So you can go to the datareporter.com. So it datareporter.com, DATAREPORTAL, and then under the headline, the state of digital media in Uganda, you will see where they talk about a lot of that. Data Reporter is a very good source when it comes to assessing social media trends. I wish that the census data, which was, they just gave us a top level view, but I wish we soon get our own census data so we can tease apart some of this stuff. But unfortunately, we still have to use numbers from 2023. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah, we did. Thanks. Okay. I also know that the Uganda Communications Commission sometimes conducts these surveys on internet penetration in Uganda and mobile phone penetration in Uganda. It's interesting to understand that. But thanks so much for that context, Anthony. Yes. I appreciate it. Anthony saying that how can we actually translate our conversations and our campaigns that we have online to the last person in Chanamukaka. Thanks a lot. We will take a deep dive into that. B-Wall, thanks for joining us on this space. Leveraging digitalization and digital spaces to advance democracy by young people. Is this working? How is it working? And how can we even make it better? You're welcome.
I'd like to hope that I'm being heard loud and clear.
Yes, now we can hear you loud and clear. Karibu.
Fantastic. So, Solomon, first off, thank you for having me. Thank you for, creating this platform for us to share what, in my opinion, are extremely pertinent issues. I'll start by saying that the reason why I use the name B-Wall is because people mispronounce my name a lot. The name is Bernard. Most people call me Bernard, or, so B-Wall is easier. And, so about, using digital spaces in our quest for democracy. I mean, if it wasn't working, we wouldn't even be discussing it, right? I think there's a lot of good, right, that is coming out of this seemingly little monster that's growing day by day. And for me, it can only get better, right? I feel like there's a lot of rot that has, in the past kind of gone either unnoticed or just unmentioned. But what digital spaces provide is an opportunity for us to kind of look at every corner, every facet, every bit of society, whether it's political, whether it's social, whether it's cultural. So that's the first thing that these digital spaces give us. And then secondly, they give us a sense of independence, right? Because as I think Natif mentioned, right now, while it might seem like there are very few people online, which there are in Uganda at least, there's still a sense of achievement that someone gets once they share their opinion. And sometimes for some people, just sharing their opinion gives them a good night's sleep, right? And that's very, very important. When somebody has an idea that is stuck inside of them and they can't share it, it can frustrate them. So just having a platform where you can share that idea is a plus. And then again, the other thing that I think these digital spaces have done for us, as is evident right now in Uganda, they seem to be shaking the status quo, right? One obviously might argue that, what's shaking if they're not moving anything? But, somebody will also argue that if the status quo didn't worry about these digital spaces wouldn't have all these high-handed things they're doing, all these underhanded methods they're using to kind of curtail our freedom of speech, right? They understand that, yes, there may not be that many people who are making noise online. And in this case, it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality, right? And while people might argue that there's not too many people online, the quality of people that are online are enough to scare anybody. So yes, there is a lot of positivity that's happening. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening. There's a lot of questions that are being asked, which is a very, very fundamental thing, because in the past, you needed to go through traditional media for any sentiment of yours to be aired or to be viewed, right? And that required that required some kind of procedure. There was a bit of censorship involved. There was a bit of toning down your message. But now you can just get your phone, type whatever you want to type, and share with the world. So that ability to share what you're feeling raw is a very, very important thing. And finally, I'd also like to add that these digital spaces might seem like a threat, and they probably are a threat to the regime as it is. But they're also a learning curve for them. They're also an opportunity for them to embrace what I would call cold criticism, because they need the criticism. They do. And the people in their circles are not going to criticize them. Nobody around the president is going to tell him the truth. He needs people like us who have no affiliation to him whatsoever to tell him what he doesn't want to hear. So that is what these digital spaces are providing us with. Thank you, Solomon.
Certainly. Criticism is part of it, and what better way do you get the attention of people in power than speaking to them directly and tagging them? I mean, we've seen, big people in this government respond. We have seen big companies respond. They do now. They do care. Like you've said, I think that opportunity is a great one, that you can actually call out someone with evidence. I mean, when you look at the campaign that was led by Agora on the corruption in Parliament that has culminated into protests, the information was shared online, evidence was shared online. People came together and said, look, what we've just seen here is unacceptable. So I hear you loud and clear. We're also joined by Godwin Toko. Godwin Toko is also a team lead at Agora. He's a lawyer and a rights activist. Thank you so much for joining us, Godwin. You have been one of the people who has been on the front line of leveraging the opportunities of the digital spaces to make your voice heard. What has been your experience like, Godwin?
Hi, Solomon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm not the team lead at Agora. I deputize the team lead, but not that it matters. And then two, I am sorry that I'm joining using another account. My own phone blacked out, where I've been in Chitezi the whole day. Now, what has been our experience using social media? There are some successes, there are some failures, there are some frustrations, there are some bad things that happen, and there are a lot of good things that happen. But generally, I think for the young people in Uganda today, social media has offered another avenue. Not an avenue, there are other avenues, but it's just one of those others. So that people can express their dissent in ways that will make them heard. I've seen people in deep villages strike about state of roads. They've held protests about health centers and things like that, which is commendable. But then there are also those who express their dissatisfaction using social media, and we are one of those that do that. Now, for us, it's always a case of creating the nexus. That can we use social media to speak for people who are not heard? So many times when Agora runs the campaign, it's basically we are not the main beneficiaries of that campaign. The average elite sometimes is not the beneficiary. So when we run a campaign like the one we are going to run, I think about Chitezi, the tragedy that befell this side of the country, it's that we're trying to draw a link between how can we get people of Chitezi to be heard using social media. So that's basically what we do. Like I said at the start, sometimes we make scores, sometimes if you remember the porthole exhibition that was started by Agora sometime early last year, there was some success to that because
I don't know if it's my network. Bernard, can you hear Godwin?
Was it breaking?
No, we seem to have lost.
Okay,
Oh, it's back now.
You're back.
Yeah, it was breaking.
You're back. Please,
Okay.
go ahead.
So as soon as I start breaking, let me know because my network is rather unstable. So I was saying now,
Right,
if you look at sure, thank you. If you look at the campaign like the Parliament exhibition, I think there were several successes we could take from that. We scored to the point that Parliament became under so much scrutiny. There was a censure motion that signatures were solicited for, and that took several. That kept the debate around corruption in Parliament going on. I think right now the Speaker of Parliament, if she had like an iron curtain covering her. That curtain isn't anymore. She's now being criticized by members of parliament. And I believe certainly that for democracy to thrive, there must be feedback. There must be people who can say, hey, you're putting your neck, you're holding me in chokehold. Your neck is on my knee. Your knee is on my neck. So as long as you're able to do that, and social media just becomes one of those many platforms that we can use. Certainly not the only platform, not exclusive, not a detriment to any other person. If someone wants to go and protest on the streets, you're welcome. For us to do it standing here, we will say, please go and do it. Though we know the risks involved. When we have the chance to go and do it ourselves, we do it. So I think all said and done, this is just another platform that we should leverage on, especially the younger people, because I think the statistics show that there are more people of a particular age group on social media. If you look at the apps, whether it be TikTok.
We lost you. I think your network is having a challenge. Are you able to come back, Godwin, and conclude your submission?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, we can barely hear you, but we will come back to you, hopefully, as your network stabilizes. So, let's see how that will look like. All right, Days, let me bring you in before I can go back to the rest of the colleagues. Yours is a specialty on studying media, civic space, and ICT. Compoundingly, how have you found, across Africa and also in Uganda, how young people are leveraging these spaces? You're welcome, Daisy. Daisy, are you there? Okay, we'll come to her back. All right, Anthony, you presented the numbers and the figures earlier on, and you made it clear that sometimes you use the word we live in a bubble.
Yes, sir.
But what we've seen young people even go beyond these spaces. We've seen them doing video explainers of the numbers. We have seen you doing threads where you are calling people out. We have seen investigations done by ordinary people and largely young people and using them online. Certainly that impact cannot just be, written off. I think that over the last so many months, we have seen how, young people are innovating in the digital spaces to get their voices done. And, what has been that impact and how can we then make it better?
Brilliant. At no point am I downplaying the impact of social media. And my friend Bernard actually talked about it. Even if we talk about using it for catharsis, think about screaming in the void. That's maybe an achievement. And, I shout out something and go and sleep better at night, as my brother Bernard said. But for me, I feel like it's not enough. It really is not enough to merely send out this message. It's not enough to just package outrage. I know a friend of mine, Angela Izama, wrote an article on outrage farming in the wake of that Connie video that went viral all over the world. But it's not enough that we have people outraged. If we are going to use social media as a tool of advancing democracy, we need people to understand that they'll have to go beyond just being politicized, which is what we are seeing in the Ugandan blogosphere and social media space, to being conscientialized. Like you want a citizen who understands why it's important to go to the street and protest. You want a citizen who has to understand how to petition their government within the framework of the law. You want to beat the government using lawfare because government exists through lawfare most of the time. So one clear strategy, quite frankly, across the board is that leaders all over the world who have a tendency to autocracy will undermine formal government and non-governmental structures that underpin the democratic process. So this has left what you're seeing as a vacuum, which individual activists and really any citizen, as you can see, almost everyone who puts up something decrying the excesses in government will be labeled an activist. So this has left a vacuum, which these individuals are feeling. But this lack of structure that an individual in Myenga or in Kansanga or wherever who has a phone and data will stand up and speak up against the government is not enough. So, but this lack of structure allows for agility, makes it difficult for government repression, as you know, and gets the message out there. So because all one needs is, the smartphone data and they're good to go, the message will be sent. But because the times when like I alluded to earlier, when the government would just merely raid the Daily Monitor offices, confiscate some computers, and move right along gone. So citizen journalism has taken over. The problem, though, is how do we channel this energy and harness this technology to slow the decline of democracy and build more robust leadership structures? You have seen the effect of a mob, an angry mob, coming on the street and appending the structures of government, and then going back home and feeling like, yeah, we had a cathartic moment. You've seen what happened in the Arab Spring. I hope I'll have time to delve into this much later. These were people who are politicized, people who understood that, well, we need to stand up, we have rights, we can bring down the government. And then that government is brought down and other structures haven't been built that are then going to build to support a new movement of leaders. So while we celebrate social media as a fantastic tool for awakening citizens, we also need to be very careful about the detriments and also be very purposeful about reframing the narrative to build a more switched-on citizen, a citizen who will not stop at screaming into the void or marching on the street, but a citizen who will have ideas on how to build better. It's not enough, for instance, for me to say, oh, well, there was a Chitezi issue, these people died, 21 people died, we have a problem. That much is obvious. I would be saying, guys, the sky is blue. But I have been looking at the social media debris coming up today and referencing conversations I've had with a dear friend of mine, Isaac Sebakat. And we ask ourselves, okay, we are pushing that, this government is terrible, we need to get rid of these people. And quite frankly, any leadership that allows something that happened in Chitezi to happen should leave. But then when you look around for alternative voices, I'm like, okay, so who is the shadow minister for the environment in the opposition government? Why aren't we talking about them? Why do we think that person is not standing up to give an alternative agenda? So if this person didn't think an idea like Chitezi was important for them to address and platform in their alternative government agenda, then why do they think the government should have? You understand? So what do our shadow ministers do? Are we allowing them to express themselves through social media, through all these platforms of alternative communications that we've created, to tell the masses that are already irate about a government that they believe is not working, to tell them what a new deal is going to look like? So while we use social media to drive outrage and get likes and do all this stuff, it should be for much more than that. Back to you, Solomon.
Wow, interesting submission. Thanks a lot. And that calls for some level of accommodating each other.
Of course,
right?
of course.
Solomon.
Yeah, Biol, I'm going to bring you in.
Okay, cool. Okay. I'm itching. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Biol, you will respond. You're going to respond to Anthony here, who made this submission. But I think that he's calling for a place where we can and what social media has done is that it has provided that bridge where people in government can be brought to accountability, or they can be made to account by the ordinary citizens, by young people, by creating that platform where you will bring a certain minister and he faces the audience and answers these questions. I would love to hear from you, and I know we'll talk about the other aspects of misinformation and disinformation and hate speech and lack of being accommodating. Do you think that social media has provided this bridge, but also is there some sort of through with each other? Biol, you're welcome.
Yeah. Where do I start? First of all, let me just start by saying that while I understand Natif's argument about us using social media for much more, and equipping people with civic education and all these things, one thing we must admit and accept, and audibly mentioned, is that this regime doesn't play by the rules. That's the first thing. This regime doesn't believe in the rule of law. That's something that I will say, right? It's not interested in building structures, right? And once you know that, your approach is different as well. So while we say that, can we use social media to create actual change? I will tell you that as long as this regime doesn't want something to happen, it will not happen. How many people have been mentioned to be involved in corruption in the past, say, 15 or 20 years? How many of them have actually faced the law, and how many of them are still walking free? That's one. Two, Uganda had a constitutional limit, right, in terms of maximum terms of office, right? 2 5-year terms. Until 2005, when that limit was washed away by a constitutional amendment, right? The argument I'm making here is, if this regime wants something to be legal, it will become legal, no matter how horrible or heinous it is. So that's something we also need to embrace, unfortunately. And knowing that, our approach becomes different. Why, instead of asking the question, can't we use social media for more? The answer obviously is yes, and we should. And I agree with Natif that, we need to be able to use social media for more. But the challenge is, as I say, this regime does not play by the same rules that we are trying to play by. While you want us to, be accommodating, while you want us, to engage in this discourse, while you want us, to submit ourselves to the law, the people that are up that side don't even care about the law. So already the ground is not leveled. It's not like we're fighting an even battle. No, we're not. So that's something I first needed to clear before I even go ahead, right? We can have these conversations here and kind of, purport to be, pushing justice and the law, and let's follow the law. This regime doesn't work that way. So the second thing I thought I needed to mention is I do agree that we need to and we ought to use social media for a lot more, and digital spaces generally for a lot more. And I can confidently tell you that a lot more is happening during this recent march to parliament, where some of us were unfortunate to be arrested. You saw the power of these digital spaces. Somebody created a platform for missing persons. That's a positive, right? So you can go on there and see who's missing, see when they were last arraigned in court, see where they might be, and that's a positive. Two, people gathered, people collected, people got together, people did a lot of stuff together to raise bail money, to raise support fund, to do all this. Those are positives that are happening. You can't dismiss that. Three, a lot of people who are not physically able to join us to march to parliament, we're showing support from all corners of the world. That in itself is a plus. And somebody might say that that's not enough. And the truth is, nothing is ever enough for this regime. Nothing is ever enough to dislodge or to scare this regime, as long as they have the guns, which they always have and always will. Unfortunately, I'll first pause for now there.
So let me just stay with you, Bernard, here. Doesn't that then, create a space of lack of being accommodative to each other? Because we thought that, yes, I hear you, but if we really put these facts and truths to the people in power and speak to them, and they listen, and we also hear from them, do you think that shouldn't even happen from what you're saying?
No,
I also wish,
I'm with
Solomon,
you.
that would allow me to respond a
Hold
bit.
on,
to
let me first give Bill an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen, I'm with you, Solomon, that we need to be able to speak to them. But the communication happens two ways, right? I will say something. You should be here to listen. You should be able to listen and hear me, right? And then when you also say something, I should be able to listen and hear you, right? But in this situation, there's only one side that is speaking, and the other side can hear us. They know what we are saying. They understand it, but they are not interested in getting what we are saying. They're not. And the other thing is, when you say, be accommodative and whatever, I say I'm going to peacefully protest, right? I've communicated to you. You ask for, a police letter. You ask for all these things, and I oblige. I tell you I'm going to peacefully protest, which the Constitution provides for, right? Which the Constitution provides for. So this is me trying to meet you halfway. The least I thought you could do for me, provide me with security, as simple as that, so that I peacefully protest and express myself. But what do? You clobber me. You arrest me. Tell me if that is two-way communication.
All right.
Solomon, can I please respond?
Okay, please go ahead and respond, and then I can bring in other panelists. Yes, Anthony.
Yeah, I actually understand where Bernard is coming from, but I like to use data and what history has showed us. What happens when popular movements are let to run without a foundation that underpins their ideology? So it is starting to look like hashtag pushing is playing to the gallery, and I'm not saying 100% it is, but it's starting to look like a game of see me for the chattering classes that occupy the rarefied areas of our intellectual class. And if we continue with that direction and not demand that actually those people who are pushing hashtags also put some sweat on their heads, we're going to have a problem. I admire people like Biwal, who actually followed up the hashtag movement with putting boots on the streets to challenge the system that is keeping them oppressed, as I say. But we risk getting into a comfortable environment where we raise ruthless automatons who just think that the only solution that is available is pour on the street, get rid of the state, the prevailing government, and take over. And quite frankly, this has not worked anywhere. I'll give you one or two examples. I'll use the example of Burkina Faso. Go back to 1983 when Thomas Sankara, a very young, charismatic revolutionary, our president still quotes his work, actually. He came riding a very popular wave into power in Upper Volta, I think it was called back then, 1983. And he went on to put the peasant, the Montua Wansi, at the center of his government and drove progress using whatever he preached in his popular movement. But guess how he was gotten rid of? October 1987, Sankara was assassinated by troops led by Captain Blaise Compaoré, and Captain Compaoré proceeded to put in place a brutal leadership that stayed in Burkina Faso until 2014. This is 1987 to 2014. Now let's go to the Arab Spring that is oftentimes used to put these popular movements up there. I think the movements should happen, but they shouldn't be ruthless. And when they are ruthless, they become ruthless by us concentrating on the hashtag and counting millions of hashtags and forget the hard work that actually goes into planting the roots. And I'm going to show you using examples from the Arab Spring. But first, before I go to that, I promise 2-3 minutes will be enough. Before I go to that, I will use the Ugandan example. There's software that can dig out how many times the March to Parliament hashtag was shared, how many people interacted with that information, you will not be surprised, I'm sure, to learn that you're talking about more than 10 million shares, 10 million interactions, a lot more than that. How many people got onto the street? Less than 200. So then that tells you there's a gap. These people will push hashtags for comfort, but their agency will be usurped by a certain class of individuals. And when it comes to the time of the rubber hitting the road, these people will not show up. In business, we call this conversion. If you put out an advert and someone clicks on it, how many of the people who click on that advert actually convert into buyers? So the process of converting the clicks to payment for a good or service is what I think we need to spend a lot of time talking about. I know this is not a very popular opinion, but of recent I've not been known to give out popular opinions. I just give opinions that are rooted in data. Now, as I close on this issue, let's look at the Arab Spring, which quickly turned into the Arab Winter, as you guys probably know. So you had these popular uprisings. A lot of people, even very educated activists, will reduce it to Bouazizi setting himself ablaze in a Tunisian market. And they say, well, suddenly a spark happened and, Zine El Abidine was gone. Okay, that is utopian. But anyway, it happened. Tunisia was, the Tunisian government was toppled. Quickly Libya with American and French assistance. You went to Egypt, you went to Yemen, you went to Syria, you went to Bahrain, all these countries. Okay, we're just talking a space of 2010, 2012. All these uprisings had one phrase in common. And tell me if this rings a bell. The phrase was, the people want to bring down the regime. Here you have bring down the dictator, bring down the regime. You do not hear a single word on what's going to happen next. Your colleague and celebrated journalist and thinker, Raymond, put out a thread today that actually challenged people on what's going to happen if this popular movement succeeds. So you see that in the Arab Springs, those initial revolutions, the initial energy dissipated sometime towards the end of mid to end of 2012. And then what happened in Egypt? You have Assisi now coming in, who is a more brutal dictator than someone like Mubarak. Now you've had a Yemeni crisis, that subsequent civil war that has happened. You have the Libyan crisis. Power vacuums got created because you had rootless individuals, rootless like plant root, rootless individuals being angry and using tools of collective outrage to kick out whatever establishment happened. But then they didn't account for the elite moneyed class who have made elite bargains with the sitting governments and are still going to be there. These are their friends who make it rain at Bandari. You don't realize it, but you will be pushing a hashtag, going to the street, going to Luzira, and then coming out, and your celebratory party will be thrown by this guy who has made a grand bargain with the dictatorial machine, and he's stealing that money and using it to make you happy and celebrate you while you continue pushing that hashtag. If then you don't come out and examine the whole system and understand how do we get rid of the intricate web that supports this oppressive machine that we are raging against, if you do not answer that question, you have just wasted your time on social media. It is the equivalent of mental onanism.
All right.
And we need our people to understand that.
All right.
Thank you.
Anthony, thank you very much. I think this is, you're justified to give your opinion and your views, certainly. And if you can back them, then we're here to listen to each other. We have Mutegeki Cliff, who has been studying the digital spaces and democracy. He's been doing a study. Perhaps would love to bring you in, and you came in late before I can go to Godwin and Precious, and then I can open up the space for all of you to make a contribution. What has your research said about how young people are taking advantage of the digital spaces? You're welcome, sir. Cliff.
Thank you so much, Solomon. And it's great to be here, and I'm delighted to be here today to discuss this topic, which is both timely and transformative. And basically my work is I specialize in guiding organizations and communities through the exciting yet complex world of digital transformation. And in a time when technology is at the heart of democratic engagement, my role involves helping organizations and individuals navigate this digital space effectively. Then I also work to ensure that digital tools and platforms are not only accessible, but also utilized to their fullest potential to foster, among other things, democratic participation, to enhance transparency, and then also to drive social change. Now, our digital age offers unprecedented opportunities for young people to shape the future of our country, and that is by leveraging technology. I believe we can amplify our voices, we can mobilize communities and hold leaders accountable as we explore how these digital spaces influence photography. So my goal is to highlight mainly how adoption of these digital tools can empower us to actively engage in the democratic process and contribute to a more inclusive and equitable society. So for this, allow me to share two submissions. One is social media as a catalyst for change. Now, social media as a catalyst for change, we all know that social media has become a powerful tool for political engagements with platforms like X, which we are using for this Twitter space, other platforms like Facebook, Instagram. They allow us to express our views, to organize movements, and hold leaders accountable, like I said earlier on. And in the recent years, we have witnessed inspiring examples of youth-led social campaigns that have shaped the political discourse and also driven positive change. Now, looking at social media as a catalyst for change, we can highlight out several things from amplifying voices to holding leaders accountable, like I said earlier on, to fostering dialogue. And this Twitter space is actually one of those tools that are very, very effective in helping to foster dialogue and reach a huge number of people. But furthermore, you look at things like raising awareness and educating, and this is where things like civic tech come in, because we believe that civic tech is one of those things that can be a game changer when it comes to participation, both youth participation and participation from the general population. It's basically that plug between the government and its population. And we know that civic technology holds a significant potential for empowering young people and advancing democracy in Uganda. And this is through providing digital tools and training. Through this, civic tech can help to equip youth with the skills needed to effectively engage in the civic activities and advocacy. It also facilitates meaningful participation through online platforms, petitions, public discussions, advocacy, and fostering a more vibrant democratic process. In addition to that, civic tech also promotes transparency, accountability, and this allows citizens to monitor government activities and report on public services. And additionally, it enhances the electoral participation with voter education tools and digital voting options.
Please.
And
yeah, Chris, I just wanted to come in there and thanks for that research. And it's really good that we anchor our conversations in research. I wanted you to speak to the challenges that come with it: misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and how we can move past it. I think it's something that is captured in your report somewhere.
Well, misinformation really poses very significant challenges. Most times we find ourselves, or quite a huge number of people would share a post without necessarily verifying the source, without verifying the credibility of the content in it. And then you find, for example, case in point, you have one person having 10,000 followers sharing the wrong information. Now, if that reaches a huge number of people, it can erode, if it's a personality, it can erode their reputation. And ultimately it contributes to eroding trust. So that is what I can, among other things, respond with regarding your question.
All right, thanks. Please, thank you very much. We'll come back to you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Anthony. I'm going to come to Godwin here, and then I can come back to Precious. Godwin, the digital spaces, I don't know if you've got a great network, but certainly the great digital spaces have provided a great opportunity for all of us to engage, for young people to engage, to bring on other people. But along with it have come some challenges. How can we navigate those challenges that come with leveraging online spaces to widen the shrinking space? Godwin, Karibu.
Solomon, I hope I'm clear now.
Yes, we can now hear you. Bernard,
Discussion.
now we can. Okay, can you maybe stand there?
Okay, I'm standing. Where to stand? I'm going to move the car.
Okay, let's try. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you break along. But let's hear you. Let's hear what you have to say.
Okay, I hope it stays stable. We'll try to speak.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't hear you. We can't hear you very well. Let's let you get even better network. I'm going to bring you back. My brother Godwin, I think network is disturbing you. Precious, let me bring you in. With someone discussed social media as a double-edged sword, which has great opportunities, but also so many challenges, including a place where young people sometimes fuel crises using fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. How have you been able to stay on course, to be heard, but navigating those very difficult terrains of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news? Precious, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Before I answer that, I'm going to take you back to, I want to react to something Tony said. Tony said, was talking about social media being enough, asking is it enough, or saying it is not enough. Definitely I agree with him, it is not enough. But of course it's a great start. You know, like I was deliberate to say in a country where, you know, traditional media and mainstream media are censored and limited to a certain category of people. I think social media is a great start. And he was, of course, talking about, you know, standard citizens who understand what and what. I understand that, but this government has been deliberate not to produce people who understand their civic rights and civic duties. For example, on the previous cases we've been holding, it is sad to note that most graduates in Uganda have never sat in a class teaching, you know, the constitution or teaching, you know, anything about, you know, the civic rights or anything. And to make matters worse, it's our own curriculum was, you know, the political education and the civic education was scrapped off. So in the first place, you cannot demand, you know, quality citizens that need to understand when you're producing them. So I want to say that, yes, social media has been an outlet for everyone because there's no gatekeeper to social media, you know. So yes, it has brought in so many people. But of course, we should be looking at why we have savages on social media. I think Tony was being, you know, too simple to say maybe savages and everything because I would just, you know, I want to speak like someone who's not an elite. And of course, there's so many people who speak out of ignorance, out of frustration. But have you ever, like Tony, with all your statistics and with all your data and with all this knowledge that you are pouring on us, have you ever thought to sit down and say, okay, why are these people so frustrated? Why are they not even giving a chance to understand all that I'm saying? It's because the government is not interested in producing the quality citizens that you're talking about. You know, someone is saying, you know, the youths or the people making noise on social media are extremists. Yes. Truth is, most of us are extremists because of the situation that has been created by our own government, you know. B-Wall was saying that if we have to have a conversation with you, Solomon, is you talk and I listen. And when I talk, you should be able to listen to me. But to think that when the youth rise to say we need jobs, you are labeled as hooligans. When the youth raise their voice, say, why are you rooting this country? You come out to call them noisemakers. When people try to say something, you say, when you try to come and exercise your civic duty of peacefully protesting, I'm going to show you fire. How do you, who is really not tolerant? Who is really not tolerant and who is, you know, who is not understanding? You know, the elites before would make us think they really know these things by, you know, talking complicated statistics, electronics is doing actually, giving us, data. I appreciate that because you're all graduates, you're all educated people. But does that reflect or does that help me in before because I have my smartphone already, you know? So how are you going to curb the actual problems without being so sophisticated? Because as we speak, the interns are on streets. They want to be deployed. You think speaking, you know, in data and bring all these statistics will help? No. You know, when the interns are on the street saying we need to be deployed, in Parliament are saying we want to take 5 billion to go to sit in Gulu so that we understand the problems in Gulu. But of course, Gulu has representatives. They know that Uganda has representatives. So if the representatives from Gulu cannot, you know, represent the people of Gulu in Parliament, that it takes the whole Parliament and it has cost Uganda 5 billion, you know, to go and sit in Gulu to understand the problems of Gulu, not even to solve the problems of Gulu, but to understand the problems of Gulu. This creates the savageness. This creates the anger. This creates this desperate youth in this country. How do you explain? How do you make an intern that is going to you know, how do you call, an intern that is going to have to have a whole year, you know, sitting, not qualified to do anything, but has failed to do their internship, to sit and dialogue and understand, you know? If this government was interested in quality citizens, it would have created them. But in the first place, it was never interested in creating this. With that said, you asked me how we've been able to manage, you know, fake news and everything else. In this country, there's no managing Solomon, honestly. Recently, the New Vision is the leading outlet for the government. New Vision is leading fake news, you know. The intelligence in Uganda is leading the fake news. So how am I precious? You know, not supposed to ride on fake news. We are running on propaganda as a country. We are running on fake news from the government's newspapers. So come on, this country is a mess, Solomon. This country is a mess. That's all I can say. We are a big mess. We're a big fat mess.
Wow. Precious, thank you. We're in a mess. Okay.
I wish you would allow me to respond
Anthony,
a
I'll
bit.
bring you in. Let me first give an opportunity to my brother Godwin Toko, who is joining us using the handle JJ. Godwin, you were still making your submission, and then I can open up the floor for people to make contributions. Godwin, you're welcome. I hope the network can allow you.
I hope this is more stable. I've tried to run phone here. I hope this will work. Can
That's
you hear me
much
now?
better. Yes, we can.
Solo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I was saying first that I think that the discussion was getting a bit lost in topics about regime change and things like that. If we have discussed regime change, every single method of regime change, I'll point for you examples that fail. I mean, we've seen dictatorships rise through elections. We've seen anarchies rise where elections were organized and then somehow, Haiti, whoever is in power in Haiti didn't get there because of social media. They got there through an election, but then somehow things still slip out of their hands. But that's the discussion for another day. Now, going back to the topic that we have for today's discussion, how I understand this topic basically is that we are looking at the ability of people to promote democracy or to hold their leaders accountable in the pursuit of democracy using social media. And for me, how I understand this is that basically people have used social media, especially the youths in Uganda, they have used it to a large extent successfully. Now, is that the end of discussion? No. If you think there is something else that other people should do, please do it. I don't think anyone is standing in your way. Don't then come and tell them, oh, you're doing it wrongly because there's this problem. Well done if you can notify the problem. Sir, if you've noticed the problem, madam and sir, how do you pick it up?
Okay.
Did we lose
I
Toko?
think,
Not here.
I thought it was only me who was losing him. Toko, are you there? Okay. I really wish I... No, you're back. You're back. You're back, Toko.
Oh, you can hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Yeah, so basically I was saying that as for social media in Uganda, I think it has been used effectively. And you don't have to look at a large scale, something at the scale of regime change. There is a young girl who was shot by KCC officials. Using social media, people were able to hold the family, to hold KCC accountable, and she got a bit fixed. Is that a good thing? 100% a good thing. Are people holding leaders accountable? For instance, look at the March Parliament. Let's say 10 people turned up. Let's not say 200, 300, 1,000 people. Just 10 people turned up. Has it created a discussion on the issue of corruption? Even as recent as yesterday, you have the Church of Uganda Archbishop saying that these people should be held in this push against corruption. For me, that is a success. So many times it's easier to critique and say, oh, some people just did this thing and they didn't go on the street. Not everyone will go on the street. Some other people have to play other roles. If you're in combat, and I learned this from General Mugisha Mundu, he says there are those who will be cooking because when people go to fight and they're not fed, they will die of hunger. There are those who will go there and provide medical attention to those who have been shot. There are those who will go there and will provide the technical and strategic level of discussion. So everything is played at a certain level. So for me, as far as March Parliament, for instance, was concerned, a very, very robust and important discussion. But let's now scale it down a bit. Who is causing the rage and anger among Ugandans on social media? It's not that social media is causing it. It's that people are failing in their roles. It's like when you go to a place like Chitezi, where I am from right now, there are claims of hundreds of people. Someone said as many as 80 households buried underground, and you go there and there are 3 excavators. Then Prime Minister comes and she's sort of laughing and saying, "Oh no, mwana, when sanza wanu muzade we food that is the muchidekele ngina mulagirira." As if that is such a big thing. The real tragedy is that these are the people who then are rage farming. They're the ones who are causing people to get so angry. So when Toko comes and explains and says that there's a problem with this leadership of this country, and then you say, "Oh, Toko is the one who is causing people to be angry," he isn't. At the end of the day, I'm only showing you where the problem is, and the problem exists because there's leadership failure. Now, to conclude on this particular issue, are there problems with social media? Yes. So for instance, the question you asked someone earlier about fake news and misinformation and all that, I think it was Onyango Boro article. I remember reading it while I was at campus. He said, talking about fake news and misinformation, he said basically news is like a marketplace. If I went to Nakawa market, where I go sometimes to buy stuff, I can find every type of chicken, including dead chicken. Or let's say tomatoes. I can even find rotten tomatoes. There could even be poison tomatoes. So many times people who are reading, who are looking for information, you also have the duty to discern and see which sources of information you get information from and how that information looks. Now, in the Ugandan context, the problem is that when you start pushing these narratives, they are used to curtail basically everything. 90% of what turns out as government position in this country is frustrated off as fake news. Something happens, oh, that's fake news, not true. Then you begin to see later that gets to the reality. So while I don't dismiss the fact that fake news does exist and it can be very problematic, while I don't miss the fact that disinformation does exist and can be problematic, I just want us to be cautious, not to give the other side a rope that they use to hang each of us, because I will say things that I know are true, but then I can't prove it at that particular point in time. I just need like a few hours for it to become news. Then they'll use that against me. So I think I can stop there, Solomon, and I was speaking so fast before the phone could go off. I hope I made my case.
Thank you very much, Godwin. I hear you. The little successes are important to celebrate, and I can't agree more with you. The power of social media and how we can, leverage it. It's very important that we celebrate the few things that we've been able to do. I do investigations which I put on YouTube and disseminate online, and out of those investigations, we've seen those investigations live beyond just being published online to start a life of their own, and sometimes they have led to some action, but also most importantly, the public gets to know some of these things that have been happening. So I hear you. Each of us, can do some, whatever we can do. It doesn't have to be regime change, like you mentioned. But thanks for that. It's your time to talk back. It's your time to be part of the conversation. It's your time to say something. Okay, Anthony, do you want me to give you a second? You had wanted to make a small response?
I'll really appreciate that.
Okay, let me give you a minute, and then I can give Biwol a minute, and then I open it up to the public to have to hear from them. You're welcome, Natif.
Yes, so I think we need to understand that Uganda's history, if we look into it, is defined by warlordism. We were a bunch of kingdoms and chiefdoms that would expand using the spear and whatever tool or weapon we had to take territory. Later, we adopted guns. It's not a surprise that we have the president of a supposed democracy referring him to himself as a Sabalwani. Now, what we are seeing on social media is the embrace and the extension of that warlordism, that people will frame these narratives into, if you don't agree with me, therefore you're with the enemy, and I'm going to abuse you. And we've seen it for the last maybe 3-4 weeks. Now, as a friend said, it's now also emerging that without the organizations needed to take outrage that you're seeing now, it's right for people to be angry. You can't look at the deaths in Chitezi and remain the same. But it's not enough to just package that outrage and push hashtags. And that's all I'm saying. That it's emerging that without the organizations needed to take outrage, create awareness, and build communities able to lawfully demand change, the digital world has contributed negatively to social cohesion. There's a reason why you're seeing racism on the rise, far-right parties in Europe on the march, xenophobia, vaccine denial, and talking about vaccine denial, I'll go to my training as a pharmacist and use an example of that. I used to work in vaccine access and delivery many years ago. But we face vaccine access and vaccination. If we left it just to community narratives and didn't guide those narratives, no one would take their child for vaccination. So if we leave community narratives to prevail, can we vaccinate anyone? Should a scientist, an expert in that field, come to the public square and choose popularity? Would there still be any science? But in this day and age, we risk having the giants of social media capturing citizen agency, basically hijacking it, and then like I refer to you just in 30 seconds, like I told you earlier, that you have an individual through one tweet having more reach than the weekly circulation of, say, the Daily Monitor and New Vision. When such an individual comes to the marketplace of ideas, we need to ask ourselves, are we dealing with them as an individual or as a brand? Is the mass alignment with that individual purely on the basis of their wonderful ideas or on the stardust that runs off of that individual? That gets these masses to believe that any perceived association with that individual makes them a star. And we're seeing a lot of this in this hashtag kind of activism and removing a dictator kind of talk. So when we get to a point where ideas clash, are they contested on their merits or on a brand preservation perspective? Now, you have well-meaning activists, and we have a lot of them on this call. They are held hostage by likes and retweets. They see themselves as rock stars of public policy marketplace, and they see the public as their clients. Are we then going to say that is all we are going to use social media for? The answer should be no. And if a Natif or a public square as an organization comes out and says, no, I think we can do much more, and Priam asked, what have you done to actually roll back this situation? And I can say we have chosen to plant our flag on civic education. Whether it takes us 10 years, 100 years, we'll do it. We do not say the people who are pushing outrage, who are getting people to, speak up to the government and speak up against bad leadership are doing anything wrong. Far from it. And unfortunately, in this day and age of packaged outrage, that is how the conversation will be framed into some sort of soundbite that can fit in 140 characters, and it's pushed out. But I would want for us to have a better examination of the role of social media in driving societal changes that goes just beyond people being angry because another person doesn't agree with them.
All right, interesting. Thank you.
Solomon.
I hear you. Biwol, you're welcome. Chris,
Solomon.
I want to come to you.
Yes. I want to start first of all by saying that at the risk of sounding like I don't understand what Natif says, I want to say that first of all, the narrative that we need to do more with social media, it takes away from all the work that has been done prior to social media, right? That when the messages were being swung from courtroom to courtroom, when the Bobby Wines are being taken from, one cell to the other, when people are being tortured, that's work that's being done actually on the ground, right? What social media is just another tool, right? An additional tool. I think requesting or asking or demanding for more from social media, first of all, is negating all the other work that has been done before, but also secondly, is being blind to what social media has actually done. And Toko has very elaborately explained here all of the good stuff that social media has done. So I think we need to first recognize that. Secondly, there will always be people who play to the gallery that you can't run away from, that you absolutely can't run away from. But that doesn't change the fact that there are good-willed and good-hearted people who are actually chasing the dream, who are actually trying to push for positive change. And once we concentrate on the naysayers, once we concentrate on those other people, you take away from all the good work that's been done. The other thing is the challenge for Uganda, as I already highlighted, that this is not an ordinary fight, right? the ground is not level. So it's not like, we have one fighter and they have one fighter. No, we have 3 fighters. They have 5,000 fighters in the form of money, in the form of guns, in the form of all these things, power. So the fight is different. And finally, I think the discussion about the Arab Spring, the Arab Spring, and all these things, while it's valid, I think it kind of takes away from what we are trying to achieve here. Because what, for example, we were trying to achieve was an end to corruption, right? And the president had come out very vocally and said, he's very interested in ending corruption, and he wants people to reach out to him to see how he can fight corruption. And we said, okay, look, this is a very positive move. We would like to be a part of this fight against corruption, right? But because the regime is anchored in corruption, if you fight corruption, it seems like you're fighting the regime. That's why there's a threat. Otherwise, if there was no threat, they would be happy to fight, corruption with us. And finally, on the issue of, misinformation and disinformation and fake news, first of all, I believe in precedent, right? If there's somebody who has shared fake news before, once, twice, they probably aren't somebody I'm going to respect, right? And me, I always believe cream rises to the top. I never really worry about these things of misinformation and disinformation and fake news and whatever, because there are people who are consistent in sharing information that is questionable. Why would you want to get information from that person again? And as I've said so many times before, that people who peddle fake news, people who peddle questionable stuff will always be found out, because the truth always comes out. They will always be found out. And as an individual, if you are interested in the truth, you will always find the truth. That's the honest fact. You will always find the truth. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, B-Wall, for that. All right. The youth, the democratic spaces, and the quest for democracy in Uganda. It's your time to talk back. It's your time to give your thoughts and views. Let's get to hear from you. I'll start off with Mr. Guma. Mr. Guma, you're welcome.
Thank you, Solomon. And me precisely, I want to talk about 3 things. And this will give us, the in-depth analysis of what is happening, the reality actually. Because when you look at what is happening, the democracy we are questing for, the youth rising and, coming into spaces to talk more about it, I want to put it basically to the system we are using. Now, when I talk about the system, there are very many systems of leadership that are in the world. But if you look at what is happening, the democracy is not only being affected here in Uganda, it is affected all over the world because of some consequences that are arising. We are seeing a lot that is coming from countries that are autocratic. They are taking care of their people. They are growing so rich. They have, this system that caters for everyone. And yet countries that are having, absolute democracy, you will find that they are having a lot of divisions. You will find that democracy has created divisionism and actually classes where, some people are informed, therefore they are going to use information to, subdue the other that are not informed. Then you will find that some who have monies are influencing, leadership and everywhere. So for me, I'm looking at democracy, poverty, and capitalism in one basket as the root cause, that we are using this system where we are just, getting things from somewhere and we want them to work in Uganda. Now, if we can look at the democracy we are using in Uganda in a broader context, we elect MPs who are supposed to check, on the government or its expenditure and whatever they are doing. But you realize again, the people who are voting or who are choosing these MPs, they are ill-informed or they are using, populist measures. This person is popular, therefore let me give him a vote so that he can go there. Now, you don't expect someone who has gone, on a populist card to the parliament that he will do much more better, because he will find people who have this information, who are more educated, who are more exposed and whatever. And they will always, use such people to drive narratives that don't, genuinely help to bring up the entire system. Now, the other issue I want to talk about is there is no way democracy can work in a country that is very poor. First of all, democracy is a system that is very expensive. One of the activities that are really very expensive to manage is to make sure that you cater for all citizens. It is not easy to cater for all citizens in a country that has poverty, because if you don't take care of certain groups, of course you will find that corruption will rise. If you don't take care of certain groups, you will find that the youth will come out to really influence and want to take up a share. Now, I want to give an example of the Asian countries. You realize that these countries have grown so big, have grown wealthy, but they have determined their kind of political system they want. Look at Indonesia, look at Thailand, look at some countries like China and some Malaysia. Malaysia, Singapore. These countries have grown so huge. They are so big. They're taking care of their people. But you'll find the system they are using, again, it is not the absolute democracy we are seeing, in different countries like in the West or Europe. So for me, my urge is the youth have got education, they have got, technology that is allowing, them to have free speech. But again, we need to emphasize civic education, that these youth can be streamlined in such a way that they don't spoil their country, but rather to move positively. Because, for example, here in Uganda,
As you conclude,
if let's
Mr.
say,
Kuma.
okay,
As
for
you
example,
conclude.
here in Uganda, let's say, the youth want the government to go. Of course, the military will take over, and the military will also come with its own other things. So we are seeing, the emphasis of, throwing out government. It is not working at all in almost countries that have had that. But rather, how can we advocate for a better change of system, but making it, better rather than, scrapping it all that we have? Thank you.
Mr. Guma, thank you very much for that detailed thought. I will be asking you more. I've noted down some things which I want you to clarify, but I'll come back to you. Robert, you're very welcome. I'm asking that if I give you the microphone, if you can keep our submissions to about 1 or 2 minutes so that we can create space for other people to as well make a contribution. Robert, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Solomon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. Maybe you should organize another space for us to discuss how to leverage social media to promote civic education, because it felt like the previous speaker, that's the point they wanted to drive home. I'll dial back a little bit to Natif and a few other things. One, regime change is a whole different topic, perhaps a wider topic than what we are discussing today. In the context of social media and promoting democracy, all the youth are saying fight corruption, and they are pointing you to the parliament. When it comes to dialogue, debate, everything, the Maos have sat on tables. What have they achieved through dialogue? Nothing. They have nothing to show for it. I mean, we have the Senyunis in the house saying Uganda Airlines is making losses. This one has stolen this. You're not acting. You're not acting. And when the youth come out, you want to bastardize their conversation to say, oh, they've been funded, oh, they've been done what, you've been misled. And then that is a space in which Tony is saying, we should be accommodative. When somebody is taken in the cells, you hear stories of torture, sodomy. When they come out, you want them to do what? To come and sit at a round table and say, let's have a civic, debate about corruption. I mean, at the end of the day, what we are trying to do as youth, as people in these spaces is say, once we have an issue, act on addressing the issue and not the persons involved. At the end of the March to Parliament campaign, we had a few people apparently being summoned or called by Honorable Nakalima to discuss. What did they discuss? What were the fruits of that dialogue? There's nothing to show for it. I mean, so again, whereas we think that some of our leaders in Parliament are even half-baked, that is true, but that's a story for another day. But what have the educated, the Katundos, the Segonas done to show? To show that when we send quality, leaders, educated people, this is what they achieve. Honorable Norbert Mao, a minister for what? Justice? What has he, did he even issue a statement on the illegal arrest of the youth for March to Parliament? No, he kept silent. Recently, he only came out to say, our engagement with NRM will soon expire and I'll be, running for office as DP president. I mean, that means he went to the table, had discussions. They have not yielded fruit, at least at this stage. So let the dialogue go on in Parliament. What we, the outsiders, want to see is action. If we are saying that the Honorable Right Speaker is corrupt, what should the President say? Summon your NRM caucus and say, Madam Speaker, it is alleged that you've done A, B, C, D. Can you please step aside? Let Honorable Taiwa run Parliament as you are being investigated. If your hands are clean at the end of the day, we will move on. Show the citizens the results of the fight. But, I mean, we cannot be joining the President in lamenting and marching to Kololo, and be served Bidao by Balam, and we say we dialogue about corruption. At the end of the day, there's zero results. So it creates frustrations, which frustrations will sort of create this toxic environment. Why? Because one day you have a relative beaten, you have another arrested for some bogus charge, you have another sodomized or tortured, you have a colleague from, you've had elsewhere, the catastrophe of, Rusanja. I mean, these are things that frustrate people on a daily basis. And the beauty of it is that, for this government, is that they are now expressing it on social media. If I were in government, I'll be using social media as a listening tool if their leaders are not forwarding their issues. What are the citizens saying on social media? They are simply saying, let's fight corruption. That's the first step. There's a lot of other things that need to be addressed in this country, but corruption is the first stage. Let's start there. Allow me to end here, Solomon.
Robert, thank you very much for your submissions. Thank you. Nelson, you're welcome, Mr. Nelson Senyange. Nelson Senyange, are you there?
Cousin, I requested.
You're very welcome. Karibu. Mr. Senyang, are you there?
Actually, I don't think it's a request. What's up? These guys, I want to.
Okay. I think we missed him there. But let me bring in Queen Javira. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Seranja. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My point is very simple. First of all, specific individuals should not think that they own the struggle. Like it's a struggle for everyone. So everyone's opinions should matter. And then the other thing is people should learn how to retrospect and look. Like, I mean, you can't give an opinion and 1,000 people are telling you this won't work, this doesn't work. But someone cannot be like, okay, let me think about what I said. So I think that is not how we're going to move as a country, as a group that needs to have change. Yeah, that is just what I can say. Thank you.
All right. Queen Javira, thank you. We hear you. Thank you very much. Let me bring in King Masansa Musa. You're welcome.
Thank you, Solomon. I want to take us back. In 1986, some of the colleague, one comrade on the space was talking about dialogue, using terms as utopia, and then calling people savages. But look, in 1986, or 1985 or 86, when Museveni disagreed with government, he went to the bush. He picked up guns to fight. Even when there were avenues of them dialoguing, actually there was dialogue, as the likes of Elia Kategaya, may his soul rest in peace, were signing the peace agreement on behalf of the rebels and the government. Museveni, the rebel leader, who was now based in Tanzania, was attacking the bases of government. So that is the person you're talking about in terms of dialogue. And I want us to, because these are youth things, and I know music drives a lot of youths and causes and struggles. I want us to listen to Burna Boy's song called Monsters. He says, these are the monsters that you made. You cannot start blaming victims. Some of us have colleagues. I have a female friend who was raped. We tried all we can because she never wanted to come to the media or whatsoever. She was raped by state operatives because she belongs to NUP. She subscribes to the opposition. These are some of the things we do not come out to talk about on the media or on social media. We just have our pain. Some of our parents sacrificed. You do not know how much they sacrificed to put Museveni where he is. Some of us who have roots in Luelo. When I hear some people here joking or talking a lot of English that doesn't make sense, I sometimes get pissed and I just keep quiet. We are not savages. If you speak and say, like, that lady who has just gone off, and if you give an opinion and 1,000 people tell you it's wrong, you cannot convince them that this is the right path. Since when do you dialogue with a dictator? And someone was talking about democracy. We don't have democracy in Uganda. We have a painted democracy. The government is trying to paint a picture of democracy. That's why you see the media is involved. You're telling the youth giving out this information. But look at your media houses. Look at New Vision. They are the key spin masters on behalf of the government. Look at NBS. I'm sorry to bring these people in. Look at Red Pepper. They run the propaganda machinery of the government. Daniel Lutai was publishing results of elections in the previous election. The true results. What happened to those? We know all these things and we pretend like, okay, the problem is with the youth who comes out, or a person who comes out and calls a minister a pig or whatsoever. If Kakwenza tomorrow writes a poem or whatever post describing his torturers the way they are, that is the only tool he has been reduced to fight with. You can't tell victims, you can't dictate to victims that, this is the way you should be fighting us after we have sodomized you, after we have raped you, after we have beaten you, after we have arrested you, Man, it doesn't work like that. And for those of you who have been exposed, who have had a chance to attain foreign education, these are some of the things you should even not be talking about. Victims should be protected. They are not savages, for heaven's sake. Stop blaming them. If someone comes out on social media, the likes of Museveni went to the bush. Over 500,000 people were killed in Weru. There are no compensations up to now. Our great-grandfathers had coffee plantations, had coffee factories. They lost all that. It is only a few families, like the family of the late Kaya, who have benefited, and not that they have benefited to a larger extent. What the hell are you talking about even? You do not know the pain. You just come here, speak good English. We know good English. We can bring all the jargons. Stop blaming the victims. I submit.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Your voice matters. Your voice is heard, and that you're speaking from a point of pain. Thank you, King Mansa Musa, for those submissions. I wanted to bring in Anna Ashaba. You're welcome.
Hi, Solomon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Happy International Youth Day to all the young people here. I would like to start with what Priam said. From the start, she said social media has become an escape route for most of us, and I agree with her. To the topic we are discussing, youth, digital spaces, and the quest for democracy, I think there are so many issues arising from all the speakers, and we might be losing the gist of the conversation where we are here. Social media as, a channel to use to fight for democracy. Certainly, social media is not in itself a democratic space, but I think it's a tool for us to advance democracy. And how do we do that? There are so many ways. People have been creative through graphics, videos, spaces, and all that. I think that's one of the ways. I see social media as a form of organizing, and organizing is not always a piece of cake. We will clash, we will disagree, but then at the end of the day, when we have a common goal, that's what we should aim for. I think for me, one of the captivating things about social media organizing in Uganda is that whereas we are making progress, getting our voices heard in whatever form, because we get heard, we are surveilled, we are arrested, we are threatened. All that shows that the government is getting the feedback. I think for me, one of the things that has shocked me is we are not fully embracing the power of social media, because we still come with our biases, our classism, the misogyny, all forms of oppression still manifest in the way we use social media. And I think for me, it's a great tool that we could use to advance democracy. Is it enough? Certainly not. But given the current state of affairs, it is one of the safest ways to organize. You've seen we've gotten to a point where the government is saying we want to overthrow it through social media. I think if we can use social media to overthrow the government, I would be happy to do that. There's nothing wrong with overthrowing governments. This is our history. This guy came through gun violence. So if we are being labeled as rebels, want to overthrow the government, if social media can help us overthrow the government, then let's do it. We only have to keep reflecting on how we are challenging all forms of oppression. If today you are fighting corruption and the next moment you are making misogynistic texts and degrading women and all that, then it ruins the gains we've made in the struggle. So I think social media is an important tool in the quest for democracy. It has helped us register some wins. We might not see them as wins. It might not be enough. Maybe what we need to do is translate that action into wider spaces, into our communities. We connect because we are the connecting link. When we keep saying, oh, it does not reach many people, but we are the many people. We have families we come from, we have communities we come from. So we can take the conversations from social media to the public. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Anna Ashaba, for that conversation. Thank you very much for that feedback. Nelson, Mr. Nelson Senyanga, are you there? Nelson Senyanga, are you there? All right. Mercy Grace Munduru, you're welcome.
Thank you, Solomon. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
I know my connection is not very
Yes,
good.
we can hear you.
So just quick ones. One is that for us who have been in Uganda long enough, we know that there is no way we can say that the digital space is not the right tool in the quest for democracy, especially given how much it has influenced conversations, how much it has influenced responsiveness from the state. Over the years, I've not seen the state respond as fast as it has done with the advent of the digital media. And so we cannot downplay it as an important tool. Neither can we tell people how to use the digital space to advance democracy. This is one big fat struggle, and everybody within this struggle advances their beliefs differently. And we cannot demonize and say that we probably have patronized a specific tool, a specific way with which people should express how they feel and how they want to be governed. It's within their rights to really determine how they want to be governed and how they want to advance their issues. The thing is that, the proponents of other forms of mechanisms to advance democracy always feel the need to demonize one tool to make a case for the other. And I ask myself, why do you wait until somebody has led a movement on an issue before you start to, demonize their own movement and the tools they are using in their quest for the things they are fighting for. Before the march to parliament, we were all here on social media. Nobody was preaching dialogue. Nobody was advancing other ways through which they could achieve this change. Once the young people were on the streets, everybody became a philosopher of change. But over the years, they have done nothing to demonstrate to us that what they think is the way to change has worked. And this is what defeats the struggle. This is what defeats the struggle. You are looking at me. I am not your oppressor. These young people are not your oppressors. They are pressing against an issue that affects all of us. That should be the focus. If there is a way to get them faster to where they are going, then do it without demonizing their struggle. Do it without punching holes into the efforts people are making. Civil society was making efforts way before. There are other people, political parties, and all other groups. We should all be proud that citizens have taken this head on, especially young people. They are our biggest demographic anyway. So they are within their right to lead this movement as it is. Nobody should come and without starting a struggle that has succeeded, start to use that as the sure way to do so. Look at the people we're supposed to be dialoguing with today in a glass at a youth day. Which dialogue is going to happen through a glass? Let the young people in Uganda devise the way to the change they want to see. The future belongs to them, and they have every right to churn that path. People have come, they have played their part, others have paved way. The most we can do is to consolidate these gains, is to strengthen their struggles. Let us help. How can you help? How can you lend a hand? How can you use your space like Solomon is doing, using his space to facilitate this discussion? And many people are doing the same. There are people delivering food. There are people doing different things. But you do not force your ideologies on others and make it seem like it is the sure way. You cannot do that. And we have seen young people, not just in Uganda, in Bangladesh, in Kenya, in Nigeria, wherever young people are rising. And if you cannot rise with them, do not demonize them. If you cannot light their candle, do not put off the light of those whose bellies are burning for change in this country. And lest we lose, now you force us to have conversations that we shouldn't be having. We are supposed to be speaking about corruption. We're supposed to be speaking about the governance infrastructure in Uganda. But look at us. We are bickering with each other on the space. We are punching holes, trying to find fault in each other. Washing our dirty laundry in public and pleasing the oppressor with our division. And then we want to try and strengthen our points in this space to say, my way is the best way. No, let us march forward to where we want to go. Let us focus on the issue. Let us stop punching holes. And let us stop giving ear and space and time for these bickerings that have emerged out of this small struggle. They are deliberately planted in this struggle to derail people and to ensure that our attention is taken away from the main issue. And I hope that everybody who is leading this change knows that these are tactics that are deliberately designed. These are strategies that have been thought about and discussed behind closed doors. They're just playing in the public spectrum. This is the same tone in civil society. At a certain point, people began to say, no, I think we should start dialoguing along this. I think it is better to sit on the same table with these other narratives that happened in civil society. They are them happening in political parties. And now they've come to this movement. Please let us reject them. Let us turn the path and move forward. We shall find ourselves there at the junction of change. Thank you.
Solomon, I feel like I am one person against the crowd, and if I don't respond in time, you rob me of the chance to actually give substantive feedback.
Anthony, I am going to give you the mic. It's just that it's now plenary time, but you can note those down. I'll give an opportunity to you.
It's a lot. Mercy is heated. I wanted to give her feedback as soon as possible so she can cool down.
I'll give you the opportunity.
Okay, sir.
Let me just bring in at least 3 people, and then I can come back to the panel, and then we see what we can do moving forward. Thanks, Anthony, for understanding. All right. I'll give an opportunity to Edgar. Edgar Noe, you're welcome. Edgar Noe, are you there? Edgar Noe? Okay. Mr. Hashim Kapia.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm going to hit right to the point of social media. I feel like we don't understand the advantage we have because in social media we have a congregation of people in the Ugandan environment who are well informed, who are articulate, who put out information that is important. You need to understand that before we had social media, a lot of these conversations were restricted to the newspapers and the TV stations where you have censorship and free speech. Yeah, I don't need to get into what censorship and free speech is because I believe we all know. But I want to be very direct. I like what Tony said because he was very open. However, I don't necessarily agree with him. If I'm to stick to the point of the issue that happened on the 23rd of July, when Tony says that more needs to be done, social media is part of a process. It's not an event. Yeah. The underlying denominator is that we need better governance for our country. Yeah. And this is a process. It's not an event. Lots of things happen in a process. We don't get our eyes off the goalpost. No. The target is we need better governance. If it means regime change, then it means that. However, we have said for a start, let's march to parliament because we want accountability for parliamentary spending. and the campaign began on social media. So when Tony says that we're not doing more, in this particular instance, he is wrong. It began on social media, and the more was the march to parliament. I feel like he ignores the fact that on 23rd and the day before 23rd, this plan was so articulate that it was the only way we could I would say hold a stick to the government without encouraging their heavy hand. And you know what happened? They still brought their heavy hand. They still arrested people. There's a previous space I was on where someone said they were slapped, people were sodomized in jail. So at the end of the day, the people in Uganda understand the history of our nation. People in power are very violent. So we try to do what we can to demand accountability without exposing ourselves to the things that they can do to us and we know, without giving them the opportunity for them to blame us, which they eventually do, but it doesn't stick in the end. As you saw that the headline in the New Vision about that funny plot that was going, but I don't know who gave them that BS. But everyone knows that story can't stick. Because from the get-go, this campaign was mobilized on social media. So we do have, I call it's like a cache of facts. Social media is like our cache of facts. Tony says something, Solomon says something, Agatha says something. We look at this information, we dissect it, we interpret it, and we forge our way forward. Now, as much as a lot of people think that there is a disorganized in this Arab group of people who are leading this, if you do look at the information these people are putting out, it's counterintuitive to go with that assumption. If you look at the arguments people are bringing forward and the evidence, you cannot assume that these are the same people who want to ban their country. I mean, it makes no sense. There is completely no sense in that. Social media is our juxtaposition now, where we have all these ideas coming into place. Everyone, wherever you are, you're in Barra, you're in Kampala, you feel like you have something to contribute to the national discourse, to the direction, which you ultimately know is one good governance, but we're starting with corruption. Let's meet on social media, let's talk. Let's iron out our misunderstandings, let's gather all the information we need to hold the people accountable. And finally, this is just a reiteration. I have never seen my government panic as much as they did recently. Yeah? People will say the march to parliament was unsuccessful. I have a friend who is a Kenyan, and we are trying to analyze the outcomes of the different situations, the demonstrations that were in Kenya and those that were in Uganda. Yeah? And we realized that the Kenyan demonstration happened because of the democracy that they have, which is a bit more advanced than ours. Now, in Uganda, we would not attempt to do that. So we took the moral and the intellectual high road. Yeah? We knew what these guys are going to do. We promised them we will not commit violence in the streets. We took the social media arguments and debates to them. We're like, we're marching to parliament. There were, I think, seven requests that were made. All of them made logical sense for someone whose main goal is for the greater good of our country. Yeah? So when you look at how Kenyan demonstration panned out, which up to now is still in chaos, I feel like when Tony gave all those examples of the Arab Spring and all those things, he was very misguided. Maybe, eventually, that might come from our social media rants and all that. But at the moment, we are very much grounded because we know who we are dealing with. That said, I also feel like, I'm addressing Tony here, I feel like you spend so much attention on the people who are demanding change and almost entirely ignore the people who need to be held accountable for these things. That's my submission for this evening. And thank you so much for everyone who is contributing. It's really important that we keep these conversations going on.
All right. Thank you, Hashim. Thank you very much for those submissions. Two more people, and then I come back to my panel. And as we continue, I can see Rama Chizito. Okay. Ismail, you're welcome. Ismail Wandera, Karibu. Mr. Ismail Wandera, are you there? Ismail Wandera? All right, we lost you. Apostle Jonah, you're welcome, Jonathan.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, wherever you're listening from. I thank you for the opportunity to share with my fellow young people. And blessed be his name, our Lord Jesus. Now, the digital space and the quest for democracy in Uganda. Democracy is a fundamental human right, and especially for us that are under the Commonwealth. And I keep on telling people, those that I share with thoughts with oftentimes, is that a person like me, I don't see any other home apart from Uganda. I don't see myself outside Uganda at whatever cost. So I push so many times that whatever I desire or whatever I want should be done down here. That we should have it in Uganda. But anyway, to go back to the conversation, are we using the digital space? Is it something that can drive change, the democracy that we want? Yes. We've seen what it has done elsewhere. We've seen what online has done in Kenya, what it has done in Ethiopia, what it has done in Somalia. Trump, when he was still the president, in the first term he had, Trump used to belittle TikTok. I saw him recently joining, and in just 24 hours, he gained 1.4 million followers. The vice president right now, and the incoming potential president for the USA, Kamala Harris, she also joined TikTok. And in a night, I think she gained over 1.2 million followers. So it shows you the impact that digital spaces have. It's now going to be upon us as Ugandans, as millennials, as Gen Zs, to choose how we use it profitably, to demand for accountability and for what we desire. We're seeing that all the conversations that are in Parliament now are coming out from social media. The speaker used to belittle and say she doesn't respond to rumor on social media. She now wants to hold these Twitter spaces to talk about the corruption and the scandals around Parliament. It tells you that we are poking them and we are touching them in the right spaces. We just need to now to eliminate our individual and personal differences and focus and understand that our enemy is that one person that has stayed in politics for over 40 years. That one executive director that has stayed here for 40 years. That has denied us, because Article 29 gives me the right to demonstrate peacefully. Because the recent demonstrations that I saw, no one was violent. We were all very peaceful Ugandans, demanding for accountability, demanding for our monies. Our debt to GDP ratio is about 52% of our budget, which is 72 trillion. So that's what we are demanding. And that I don't need to be bribed. I don't need to be funded by anyone to know that. I don't need to be funded to know that as I'm going back home, today I'll buy a liter of milk at 3,500 and tomorrow it will be 4,000 Ugandan shillings. I don't need to be funded to know that. And when I'm going to buy that, I don't buy it as a man of God. I don't buy it as an apostle. I buy it as a Ugandan. And that's where I'm coming from. That today, even if I decided to keep quiet, my daughter, I have 2 daughters. My daughter will give birth in a health facility and she will die because there was negligence. 18 mothers die every day while they're giving birth. I may choose to keep quiet today and not say a thing, and my sister will be shot at, and the government will come out to say it was a stray bullet, and one will be accounted for. We've seen the landslides that have just happened. And you're compensating these people with 5 million Ghana shillings? What can 5 million do? 5 million Ghana shillings? And those ones that have survived with injuries, you're giving them 1 million shillings? Is that the sustainable solution that you can offer to us? So, fellow Ugandans, fellow young people, the digital space must be used profitably. Those guys are hearing us. As we speak now here, they are hearing pseudo accounts. They are hearing us. They are hearing us. Kenya showed us that digital spaces can do a lot. We can mobilize. We can overwhelm them peacefully. Peacefully. And let's go to, maybe finally, if we went to the Bible, this group that is governing us now came here violently. 500,000 Ugandans died violently. And this is not a group that is going to hand us the democracy we want. But we're not going to fight back violently as they did. We're going to find any solution peacefully within the law to fight back. But the very popular, I think everyone is acquainted with the Exodus, the book of Exodus, the movement of the children of the children of God from their bondage in Egypt to the promised land. When those children were moving, they displaced people in the promised land. They displaced over 7 tribes. Over 7 tribes. What does that mean to you as a young person out there? That for us to demand for what we want, we must displace a certain group. We must displace a certain group that has eaten your future, that has eaten the future of your children and that of the grandchildren. And for me, that comes with a lot of pain. I don't have any other home apart from Uganda. I don't see myself elsewhere apart from Uganda. I think I was looking at the UN statistics showing that Uganda is the second country with the immigrant workers that have settled permanently in other countries. We come second after which is Sudan. So I don't see myself living here. I have children here. I have relatives here. And we need to use all possible means to fight back to the oppression that we are receiving. And no one is going to hand it over to us. We must fight back peacefully and use any tools possible. And I must guarantee you, with the use of social media, because the president, before he makes any communication elsewhere, even in print, he first does it online. He hears us. It's loud and clear. And let all forces, let no one belittle you that you're not being heard. Trust me, let no one tell you that. Those people are listening, those people are hearing. And we must press further. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for making those submissions. Time is going. So Rama Chisto, you have the final say, then I come back to my panelists. Rama, you're welcome.
All right, thank you, Solomon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the masses. I'll go straight to the point. As someone who was actively involved in the March to Parliament protest, I witnessed firsthand the power and challenges faced by the youth in the quest for democracy in Uganda. And one of my roles that I gave myself, by the way, we are not sponsored, I needed to clear that, was to ensure that every individual who was arrested during these protests was accounted for. And it really gave me a very unique perspective on the intersection of activism, digital spaces, and the fight for democratic values. Digital platforms like Twitter right now have become very essential tools for things like activism in Uganda. And social media channels, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, have allowed young people to organize, first mobilize, and then amplify their voices in ways that were previously unimaginable. And during the recent protests, that is the March to Parliament, these platforms were really crucial in disseminating information, coordinating efforts, and rallying support for those that were arrested, both monetary from our local people, the the Ugandans, and things like prison visits as well. And the digital space served as a lifeline for many of us who were ensuring that no one was forgotten, no matter how chaotic the situation became on ground. We soldiered on. However, the digital space is not without its challenges. The Ugandan government has previously and increasingly employed tactics to stifle online dissent, and that has included internet shutdowns, as you remember, the election time, social media taxes, something that we keep forgetting, and then the surveillance. And during the protests, the recent ones, we faced significant obstacles in maintaining communication as the state sought to control the narrative and prevent the world from seeing the reality on the ground. But despite all these efforts, the resilience of the youth and the adaptability of our strategies allowed us to circumvent many of these barriers. Talking a little bit about now the power of the youth. The youth of Uganda are not just passive consumers of information. They are active participants in shaping the future of our democracy. And the March to Parliament protest demonstrated the immense power that we young people have when we come together for a common cause. We were not just protesting against specific government actions. We were honestly demanding for a seat at the table, so to say, and a voice in the decisions that affect our lives. And at an end of injustices, of course, that have been with us for quite some time, and the stories that our parents tell us as well. And when we come to now accountability and things like justice, one of the most significant aspects of the protests was ensuring accountability for those who are unjustly arrested. And as someone who took on that responsibility for accounting for everyone detained, I really witnessed the critical role that these digital tools play in the process. Social media was not just a platform for mobilization, but also for a lot of documentation. We saw a team that came up with a website similar to the one of Kenya, where those arrested, those given bail, were all documented, and were able to track all those arrests. Were also able to coordinate legal assistance and maintain a little bit of pressure on the authorities to release those that were unlawfully detained. And this experience highlighted, of course, again, the importance of digital spaces in the fight for justice and the protection of human rights. As I conclude, I just want to talk a little bit about the democracy in Uganda that is ongoing, and seeing the youth at the forefront of this struggle. Digital spaces have gone ahead to give us the tools to challenge the status quo, to hold our leaders accountable, and to demand for the freedoms and rights that are included in our constitution. And we still have a long way to go, but I think it is a great step. I want to believe and concur with the rest of the speakers that say social media is actually our biggest platform. We don't have the guns. We won't go to the bush. We don't have that power. Excuse me, we don't have that foreign funding. We are going to use what we have. And as I conclude, the youth of Uganda, armed with the power of social media and digital spaces, a formidable force in the quest for democracy. And our experiences during the recent protests serve as a testament to our resilience, our determination, and our commitment to a better future. So as we continue this fight, it is very, very crucial that we remain vigilant, adaptable, and united in our pursuit of justice and democracy for all Ugandans. I thank everyone for being part of this space. And yes, I raise my case for now.
Ramachizito, thank you.
Wow.
And you literally have ended the plenary session. Thank you very much, Ramachizito. Let me go back to my panelists to share their views and thoughts, answer some questions, and then we come back and then we see what we can do. Whether we can close the space or I can pass on the mantle to someone else to co-host. All right, let me start with Anthony Natif. You're welcome.
Man. Thank you so much, Solomon, and thank you to whoever contributed. Served me some of them. Thank you still. I noticed that most of these questions have been directed at me, especially the angrier ones. And I understand why people might be angry. I can't say I'm going to answer all of them one by one, but I'll try in the interest of time. I'll start with King Mansa Musa, who has not only come out angrily against my position on this space, but also in writing. King, I'm really sorry to hear about your friends Odile when they were captured and tortured in safe houses. Certainly no one wants to go through that. I can also tell you when I was running Guardian, there was a young employee of mine, a 23-year-old girl, who was barely political, but all her interests, she just loved Bobby Wine and posted about him on her Facebook page. And one day people showed up at work and disappeared with her. And we had to go through a rough ordeal to get her out of the safe houses. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and I certainly understand where your anger is coming from. You also say, I can't tell you, all the victims, how to fight back. And I most certainly agree with that statement. I I'm sorry if it appeared that I was telling you how to fight back. I want to think I was telling you that personally, and maybe with Public Square, the organization that I work with, where I'm team lead, we believe that there's an alternative route. So I'm hoping that just as you implore me to respect your opinion and your right to react however you want, I hope that you as well will respect my right to voice an opinion that you don't agree with. It doesn't make me a savage, and I certainly didn't call anyone a savage. Now, you said that when 1,000 people tell you it's wrong, something is wrong, you should change it. King Mansa Musa, I don't know how much of human history you know, but if this belief was to hold, quite frankly, you would still believe up to today that the sun rotates around the earth as opposed to the other way around. So I think let's allow room for dissent, even when the numbers say otherwise. In a democracy, you can win by 99.999%. It doesn't mean you disregard the beliefs and the desires of the minuscule percentage people that didn't vote for the winning side. So just as we beseech other people to respect our opinions and our views and not tell us how to think, I am hoping that we take the same medicine, and hopefully with that we can build a more inclusive, less heated society that contests ideas in the marketplace of ideas respectfully and without shedding blood, or even batch of blood that some of us have been shedding on the timeline for not singing Kumbaya like the rest may want to have it done. Now, I'll go to Mercy. I think I've answered King Mansa Musa's questions. The rest, you can find me on the TL. We are friends on the TL. Mercy Monduru, I respect Mercy's work. I've been a keen follower of her work. I appreciate the anger she has. Anger is good. Anger is very good when well channeled. I also really don't know where she got the notion that I am saying that the digital space isn't an important tool. I quite frankly started by reading off stats and telling people that the digital space is a fantastic area.